Okay, thank you for joining us this afternoon for the Minot Area Chamber EDC Government Affairs Committee Candidate Forum for the special mayoral election for the City of Minot. As we are at the Minot City Council chambers, we will follow their general procedures and start our evening or our event with the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone who is able would please stand and recite the pledge with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. My name is Mark Lyman, and I work in economic development for the Minot Area Chamber EDC, and I'm also a member of the Minot Area Chamber EDC Government Affairs Committee, and will be the moderator for the forum. We want to thank all those who are tuning in on Facebook or YouTube, and I think we've got well over, or at least close to 100 people here in person. So thank you for coming out today to be here for the forum. If you're watching live online and would like to propose a question to be asked of all of the candidates tonight, please feel free to drop that question in the chat or comment section of the Facebook page or YouTube page you're viewing. For those who are here in person, again, and we talked about this a few minutes ago, but if you would please fill out a question or fill out the piece of paper that's over here on the desk, and we'll do our best to get through as many questions as we can in our 2 hours. We are scheduled to run until 6 o'clock today. We have 4 candidates running for mayor of Minot. In alphabetical order, they are as follows: Rob Fuller, Mark Janser, Paul Pittner, and Josiah Royce. Again, a reminder to all, including the candidates, to please silence your phones. A few quick ground rules for this afternoon's forum. We ask that the candidates not address each other with their responses, but that they address either me as the moderator or address the audience. And please stay focused on the question being asked. In light of a great turnout and to give everyone a chance to respond to as many questions as we can get through in 2 hours, we are asking the candidates to hold their responses to 1 minute or less. I'll do my best to time your responses, and I will let you know when you reach 1 minute. Please wrap up your comments at the 1 minute mark. Again, we want to thank the candidates for choosing to participate in this forum that will allow voters an opportunity to get to know you as well as your various positions. As well, thank you to the City of Minot for allowing us to use the City Hall Council chambers to present the forum today. Let's get started. First, get to know our candidates. Would each of you please take a minute or less to introduce yourself and tell us why you are running for the mayor of Minot? Rob.
Yes, thank you. My name is Rob Fuller. I was born and raised here in Minot. I was a commercial banker for 17, almost 18 years. I owned my own business for 10 years, and I'm currently on the city council. I'm running for mayor, I think ultimately because when I decided to get on the city council, I thought that we as a community were wasting our tax dollars in ways that I didn't think was fair or appropriate. I've heard in the last year or two from a number of people in the community that they would like to see some change and the city move in a little bit different direction. And that's why I ran, and that's the same thing I'll do as if I get to be mayor.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Mark Janser, please.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Mark Janser, resident of Minot since 1977. I have been on the city council for a number of years, and I'm a proud resident of Minot. I'm proud of our city. I'm happy to live here. I think we have a good future in front of us, and I'm optimistic about bringing that to fruition. I hope to exert some leadership to make sure that that happens.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Paul Pittner, please.
Yes, thank you, Mark. And thank you, everyone, for being here. Again, I'm Paul Pittner, born and raised, small business owner here in Minot. Been on the council for the past 7 years. I'm running because, again, for a lot of the reasons that were stated, moving Minot in the direction we want it to go, making changes that we think Minot needs to make. But to be honest with you, I can do that as a council member. I'm in the position to do that right now. So why am I running for mayor? It's because I think we need better leadership. I think the council needs better leadership, and I think the city needs better leadership. I think we need to move in a collaborative way, in a collaborative direction. We need to start having constructive conversations, not destructive ones. We need to start to galvanize our community and start to focus on moving our community forward. We need to get back to being a community that people around the state look to as a community that was getting things done, that was truly moving in a good direction. I'm running because I care about Minot. I care about our staff. I care about our neighbors. And the funny thing is, they're kind of one and the same. We're a small community. You don't live far from someone that works for the city of Minot. And again, I care about them.
You're at 1 minute, Paul.
I'll just finish up with this. I'll be honest with you, I didn't really plan on running for mayor. I didn't, but I feel like I have to. I feel like I am the best person to lead this community forward to get back on track.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Josiah?
My name is Josiah Royce. Thank you all for coming. I'm running for mayor because I've seen, not just in Minot, but all across the country, that our Constitution, not just our state Constitution, but our original Constitution, is all but being forgotten, trampled over, completely disregarded in nearly every office across the entire country. And I believe that in Minot, like we're doing good right now that we got Trump in the White House. I voted for Trump. I'm glad that Trump's in there, but we can't just look to who's at the very top to get us back on track, to get us back to our roots of where we're supposed to be, what the Founding Fathers had intended. We need to start from the ground up. Too many people are too focused on just who's at the top and who's in charge up there, but we can do so much here. The most important elections that you can participate in are your local elections. And so, as I said, I was born and raised in Minot. I'm a small business owner here too. Minot is home for me on both sides of the family. My grandparents were both, in Minot growing up. Minot's very near and dear to my heart. And if there's one place in this country that I wanted to see start going right, more than Washington, D.C., it's here in Minot.
You're at 1
And I'm
minute, Josiah.
all right.
Minute.
I'll wrap up by saying I believe by adhering to the Constitution and following those principles that we can and will make Minot truly the Magic City.
Okay, thank you to all of our candidates for that introduction. We'll get started on our first question of the day, and we'll start, we'll just keep going down in order. I told the candidates we'd kind of jump, so every one of them has got a different opportunity to be first. So we're going to start with Mark Janser on this question. Mark, what City of Minot programs or efforts will you keep or change to improve the economic well-being of the individuals and businesses in our community?
We want to make sure that we are competitive and stay in the game of promoting Minot, promoting businesses in Minot, whether they're existing or whether they want to come here. And I think we need to continue those programs in order to be competitive, in order to take advantage of some of the programs that come from the state of North Dakota, the Bank of North Dakota, and supporting those as we have. I think that there are perhaps some modifications that we can make to reduce costs of some of those things, but we need to keep pushing for economic development. And I think some of the things that have been done recently, for instance, the partnerships with Minot State University and Dakota College of Business to have a technical education center in downtown. I think all of those things where we can collaborate and form partnerships that work together to make economic development happen.
You're at 1 minute.
Are some of the ways that we can get those things done.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Paul, same question. What City of Minot programs or efforts will you keep or change to improve the economic well-being of the individuals and businesses in our community?
So again, we need to continue to invest wisely, right? It's not just about investing or doing programs. We have to put the money where we need to. When I first got on council in 2018, one of the first things I did through my first budget cycle was provide an ordinance change that allowed the city to tap into magic fund dollars, 15% of 1 penny, to invest into economic development activities. What have we done with that? We've done the facade improvement program. Brought $2.7 million of investment into downtown that have supported local businesses, local contractors that have beautified our downtown. You look at retail recruitment, taking an active role into trying to get businesses quality of life, whether that's big box stores, whether that's food chain restaurants, to get them to come to Minot so that you don't have to experience those things only in Fargo or only in Bismarck. You can come to Minot, you can do those things when we have individuals from the Air Force Base from all around the country that come here and they can have a little taste of home. It doesn't have to be out in the middle of nowhere anymore. Partnerships with MAC, EDC, Visit Minot, that come out of sales tax dollars. We have to foster those relationships. They can do what we can't do. You look at the TRRF, Tourism Recovery and Resiliency Fund, that was started out of COVID.
You're at 1 minute.
Back into COVID. $477,000 over 3 years investment from the city had a $14 million economic impact into small businesses in Minot.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Josiah, same question then. What City of Minot programs or efforts will you keep or change to improve the economic well-being of the individuals and businesses in our community?
So on that, I would have to again adhere to the Constitution. It is not the government's job to boost or support local business. It's the community's job. It's the people's job. And if they don't want to support it, then let that business fail. When President Bush bailed out GM, General Motors, back in, was it 2008 or 9, somewhere in there, that was not a good move. Somebody else could have just bought up GM if they had bad management, if they were driving it into the ground. It could have been, bailed out by somebody, not by our tax dollars. I don't get a free Chevy out of that. So it's not up to the government to do these things. What the government can do, what I would implement, is get them out of people's way. Cancel red tape, cancel regulations and stuff, and get out of the way. Needing a license or a permit from the city to make a deal with your neighbor, that if I want to put a roof on your house or something like that, that we got to get the city's permission, is ridiculous, and that's costing the taxpayers money. And it's just government fluff. It's an office that doesn't need to be filled. Leave the people alone, and the economy will flourish. Ronald Reagan proved that when he was president. Trump has proven that with cutting 40,000 pages of regulation in his first term. It works every time because people
You're at
spend
1
money.
minute, Josiah.
Sales tax is the best revenue. Let the people flourish.
Okay, thank you, Josiah. And Rob, that same question. What City of Minot programs or efforts will you keep or change to improve the economic well-being of the individuals and businesses in our community?
Well, first and foremost, I think the first thing we have to change is government has two levers to be able to fix economic development. One is low regulation, one is low taxes. We have a lot of both of those in Minot right now. We are high regulation, we are high tax. We wonder and we ask the question, why aren't people coming here and developing or building or doing businesses? Because Minot makes it hard to do it and it's expensive to do it here. Those are two of the things we have to change right away. I think we need to look at our policies and our ordinances and make sure they're aligned with what we want going forward. And then I think we also have to figure out how to start driving down the property tax. Going to the other side, the stuff in place, the Magic Fund and those dollars, I think when it was first implemented, that was a great program. I think it needs to be looked at though and possibly revamped because it only benefits a certain group of people in this town. And if we're going to do something like that program, it should be, excuse me, it should be available to everybody out there. So I don't think it should be just Renaissance and zones downtown. I think if we're going to open that and keep those programs in place,
1 minute.
it should be all up and down Broadway.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Paul, this question starts with you. What role will you play through your elected position, if you're elected mayor, in developing a community and region that continues to thrive and grow? What role will you play?
Again, the role of mayor is that of again, it's just a leadership. It's a snapshot into who we are. You're the spokesperson for this community. It's what do you represent? Do you embody what Minot represents? Hard work, innovation, collaboration. Are you willing to work with your state representatives? Or are you trying to tear those relationships down? You have to look at what resources you have and work within those means. When we talk about Magic Fund, when we talk about Renaissance Zone or Facade Improvement Program, there's only so many funds and there's only so many resources. So you have these programs that are great, but if times change, you have to be willing to adapt. So at our last Economic Development Committee meeting that I sit on to review economic development, one of the items that I implemented and brought forth as a recommendation was a Land Development Committee. How do we get lots? How do we get the infrastructure, the vacant lots that are sitting around town? How do we get those so that they are appealable? How do we remove the red tape? How do we connect a developer and a landowner and get a builder in there to build properties to, one, lessen the burden on property tax on citizens that do live here? How do we make how do we
1 minute,
bridge
Paul.
those gaps? So again, we have to think outside the box. We have to continue to innovate with what we have.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Josiah, the same question. If you were elected mayor, what role will you play in developing a community and region that continues to thrive and grow?
First off, engaging with the people. That's something I always love doing anyway. My family or friends could tell you it's tough, riding and going places with me because I could end up in conversation with anybody and, add an hour to the trip. And so engaging with the people, getting them involved, making press statements about the things that the city council intends to do and the direction that we're going so we can get their feedback would be a major part of it. Wrapping back into even into the last question about things is like health and fitness is very important. I'm not talking about for aesthetics and stuff like that. I'm talking about the water. in our system. It's like, I want to get the water cleaned up. I want to get fluoride out of the water, and I want to get a better water filtration system installed. That's something to do instead of the special interest groups and stuff like Rob was saying about something that benefits everybody. We all wash our hands, I hope, and we all shower and we all drink the water and stuff. So these are things that are of the utmost importance because that's essential for life. Even your animals benefit from that. But above all, just getting out and leading by example. Leading by example in the city. You made a good point, hard work and stuff.
1 minute.
Hard work, fiscally conservative. We're not here to blow the people's money. Let's be responsible about it.
Okay, thank you, Josiah. Rob, same question. What role will you play if you were elected mayor in developing a community and region that continues to thrive and grow?
Well, I don't know. I don't think the role is different as mayor than it is as a city council member. I'm up there to make sure that we get the people's voices heard and implemented. I think that making sure our community feels heard, feels that the city is doing what they want us to do, I think that will lead to more thriving and growth in our community than we've ever seen. Because again, we don't know everything. We don't have all the ideas. There may be somebody out there in the community who has some fantastic ideas that not one of us have thought about. So, opening those lines of communication, I believe, are huge. We talk all the time. Why don't we get people out to vote? Why aren't people engaged? Because they don't feel listened to. So I think that's first and foremost. Second, and personally I don't feel that we've had a ton of it over the last few years, but we need to lead with open, honest, transparent governance. That means we're fiscally responsible. That means when something embarrassing happens, we talk to the community about it. That means when we make a decision, we explain why. That means when we're going to close a road down, we tell the business owner 3 weeks in advance instead of 3 days.
1 minute.
That's how I would lead.
Okay, thank you, Rob. And Mark, finish us off on this question. What role would you play if you were elected mayor in developing a community and region that continues to thrive and grow?
I think the mayor needs to be a spokesperson for the city of Minot. I think it's important that we recognize that we're a hub city in this region and that what's good for Burlington and what's good for Velva is good for Minot. And when a small business thrives in Velva, it helps them, but those taxpayers come to Minot and do a lot of shopping and pay our city sales tax. And so ultimately, there's a synergistic effect and we all benefit from that. So I think encouraging those kinds of activities and talking about that and making sure that we're a welcoming city is a role that the mayor can play.
Okay, thank you, Mark. We're going to start with our next question on this one. So this one starts with Josiah. Josiah, if you were elected mayor, what would you do to support the development of current employees, whether they're city employees or employees anywhere else in the city? And what would you do to continue to attract new workforce to our region?
As a business owner myself, I can tell you that by getting the government out of people's way, that's a very attractive thing to a business owner. By cutting regulation, getting rid of things like when you think about, there's over 20,000 federal laws in this country, there's hundreds of state laws, dozens of city ordinances, and it's like you want every business to come in and know how they're going to operate and know that they're not going to get in trouble and get fined by the city. Just get out of their way. I met a gentleman that I spoke to who was in jail, I think, for like 4 months or something like that. This is in the state of Florida when I was visiting. Been in jail for like 4 months because he had a licensing error, that he thought he had the proper license to do the kind of work he was doing, but due to a small technicality, he spent 4 months in jail, lost his business, lost everything. That's ridiculous. The state of Florida, in that case, was not helping the consumer. They were not helping the contractor. They were not helping the community. You lose your apartment, you lose your house. That's my example of like how much the government can goof things up. I keep referencing Ben Shapiro because I think he's made a good point. The government pretty much sucks at everything. So the less the government has involved,
You've
the
reached
better.
1 minute.
So by getting out of the people's way, the people can flourish. This is a very basic principle, and I'm out of time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Josiah. Rob, same question for you. And we've had a comment online to make sure you've got the microphone as close as possible to you. And make sure you're speaking into the microphone, please. So same question. What would you do as mayor to support the development of current employees, whether that's a city employee or an employee anywhere else? And what would you do to continue to attract new workers or new workforce to our region?
Well, with regard to the first part of the question, current employees, I'm going to take that as a city type thing. I don't believe it's the mayor's job to help them develop. Those are the city officials. I believe our job as mayor or as a council is just to have the support for our employees and everything they do, and to make sure they're getting what they need, whether that be on-the-job training, benefits, vacation, whatever it may be. I mean, that's what the council's job is in that aspect. With regard to how would I help bring more workforce to Minot, again, drop taxes, drop regulation. Businesses will come to Minot, they will start to build, and people will come here to work at those businesses. That's all we need to do.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Mark, same question. I can repeat it if you'd like me to.
Go ahead.
Okay, so if you were elected a mayor, how would you support the development of current employees, whether those are city staff or any other employee in our community, and what would you do to continue to attract new workforce to the region?
I think it's important that employees be given the opportunity to advance, meaning that they need the ability to take continuous training in their particular field. We have a lot of employees who are professionals and they need to take continuing education every year. Most employers pay for that. I think the city should be no different. We need to make sure that those folks are able to keep their credentials and continue to be well-versed in their field and maintain their licenses. With respect to the region and attracting businesses, I think it's important that we all are welcoming to the businesses and everybody who comes to the city. And we need to make sure that we are not adverse to people coming in from the outside and putting in something different or changing something that we haven't seen before. I think a little bit of openness and a little bit of desire to see something different is an important element.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Paul?
Yeah, so again, I think first thing, attracting new employees. How do you get people to come to our community? Well, I think the first step we can take is stay out of the headlines. We've done a real good job of getting into the headlines for all the wrong reasons over the last handful of years. So we stopped giving ourselves bad publicity. That'd be probably step number one. We need to respect the current employees, respect the current department heads that we have, empower them. They are smart individuals. They know a heck of a lot more about building roads and treating water than I do, than I ever will. So again, I think empowering them and trusting that they're looking out for the best interests of the city. They live here, they work here, they play here, their kids go to school here, they invest their lives here. So I think empowering our current employees and not belittling them, not dragging them down, not acting like we know better than them. Empower them to be the best versions of themselves. I remember we talked about this. This is when I first got on council, when we would have individuals leaving the police department to go to BCI or whatever it would be, an upgrade, an advancement in their careers. If we are the best training ground in the state for officers, that's a win. Even if we're losing them, but they're getting scooped up.
1 minute, Paul.
They're getting scooped up by organizations like BCI and things like that. That's not a bad thing. That means that we're training the best of the best.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to our next question now. So this one starts with Rob. From a City of Minot perspective, what would you change or improve from a quality of life standpoint that will assist existing or new businesses or residents of Minot?
Quality of life standpoint. Well, again, we need to cut taxes, and that comes with fiscal responsibility. Like we just sat through budget meetings today where we are basically being told that the only way we can stay as a flat budget is if we start cutting employees. Well, we're not going to start cutting employees. I mean, that process right there should show us all that some of the decisions that have been made over the last 10 to 15 years have not given good quality of life, because right now we're stuck. We're stuck because we have no more revenue to bring in unless we raise taxes. We have no more employees that we can hire unless we raise taxes. So that's the biggest quality of life for everybody in this city and businesses that want to come to town. Why don't we want to come to town? Well, it's kind of expensive to build there. It's kind of expensive to live there. We need to drive taxes down, and I think that's where it all starts.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Mark, same question. From a City of Minot perspective, what would you change and or improve from a quality of life standpoint that will assist existing or new businesses or residents of Minot?
I think what we want to make sure that we do is to be welcoming and to have a bit of a concierge service for people, for businesses who come to the community. Part of that, depending on the business, is if they're coming for a short time, might be Visit Minot, might be Chamber EDC. I think the city plays a role in that, certainly. I think we want to make sure that people feel welcome when they enter the city offices to get help or to get assistance. You know, it's a customer service thing, basically. I mean, we're looking at getting folks to feel welcome and want to stay here. And I think our attitude makes a huge difference in what they perceive about the people living in the community. If everybody's seems to be unhappy, why would you come here? Whether you're a business or an individual.
You're 1 minute, Mark. Okay, let's move on to Paul then.
You wanna
Paul, same question?
Repeat it real quick, Mark.
Yeah, sure. From a City of Minot perspective, what would you change and or improve as it relates to quality of life that will assist existing or new businesses or residents of Minot?
What is quality of life?
Yeah, however you, however
again,
you define that.
I say that tongue in cheek because it's different for everyone. Whether that's new businesses that come to town, whether that's improvement in our parks, whether that's deregulation and easier to do business, we need to manage our budget. That's what we do at the dais. We manage our budget. We manage essential services, but we also have to make Minot a place people want to live, work, and play. How do we do that? We empower our strategic partners, whether it's Minot Area Council of the Arts, whether it's the Commission on Aging. All of those people fill gaps within our community that make Minot a better place for an array of different people. Visit Minot, whether it's user groups, whether it's Chamber EDC in the business climate. Those are all places that government necessarily shouldn't be, but we have a role with them. We have a role and an ability to lift them up and to energize them and energize our community so that people do want to be involved. So again, it's staying in our lane and understanding, letting people that do what they do, let them do it.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Next question, or the same question for Josiah. Yeah, sure can. From a City of Minot perspective, what would you change and or improve as it relates to quality of life that will assist existing businesses or new businesses or residents of Minot?
Well, a couple of basic things. I think we could do better with snow removal and with cleaning the sand off the streets. As a motorcyclist myself, having to wait sometimes until end of May before the streets are even safe to ride because of all the sand that we put on for winter stuff, it does make it dangerous, and I've witnessed all too many motorcycle crashes. Now, that's a slim demographic of people, but I'm just saying, cleaning the streets and keeping snow removal done is a place to start. And I'm reminded when I was a teenager, growing up at my parents' house, one of the neighbors was Mark Matson of Matson Construction, and he had this big Caterpillar, and he'd get out, nobody was paying him to do it, he just did a neighborhood service, and he got this big Caterpillar with a big snow blade and cleared the whole street because the city wasn't doing it. And granted, there's a whole bunch of snow, so it's like to talk about, you know, what the government can do. I think we can get out of people's way, and actually, if you could subscribe to people like that have the equipment, like, hey, if you want to blade your own street, awesome, do that. That's a public service. Let's pay you a little bit of money because we don't have enough snowplows, enough time to get around to it. That's putting the power in the people, which is, as I keep on saying, constitutionally speaking, that's where it all is anyway. Ronald Reagan said, government's not the solution to the problem, government is the problem. Get out of the people's way. If people don't feel like they're stepping on toes doing it, people can take care of their own neighborhood community very well.
Okay, thank you, Josiah. We're going to go on to our next question now, and this one we start with Mark Janser. Mark, how will you, as an elected leader in our community, support our military?
I've spent a lot of years running Task Force 21, participating in the Air Force Headquarters Civic Leaders, Air Force Global Strike Civic Leaders. I think the support that Minot, through the Military Affairs Committee, through Task Force 21, and now through the Sentinel Working Group, is second to none. And I will continue that and make sure that our folks up north, whoever the commanders are, understand that they are supported by the city, and that whatever we can do in terms of support for them, we want to do. There are already some great links between the community and Minot Air Force Base, as well as the Guard. I mean, we supply water to Minot Air Force Base, which is a wonderful link. There are some other programs where the reason we have a Discovery Center Children's Museum
You're at 1 minute, Mark.
is because of a capstone grant of $6.2 million that was awarded to that project. So there are a lot of things, and there are additional things for preparing for Sentinel that are in the works. So I think this is a very important area.
Okay, Paul, the same question. How will you, as an elected leader in our community, support our military?
Again, when you look, who is the military? Who do you think of when you think of the military and Minot Air Force Base? A lot of young individuals coming from all over the country. They're getting stationed here in Minot, and we have this. We hear it all the time. Where the heck is Minot? It's the middle of nowhere, frozen tundra. Only the best come north. We need to make Minot a place that young people want to live. We need to make Minot is a young community. It is getting younger all the time. We need to go back to the last question we had: quality of life improvements. How do we make it a place that it's easy as possible to open a business, to invest here, to want to stay here, make Minot a place to live, open lines of communication with Task Force 21 is a little bit of an unfair question because Mark's been on that for quite a while. But again, those and again, empowering the organizations like the Chamber EDC that we fund. We give funding to help support Task Force 21. Those are the relationships that the city cannot do alone. We need strategic partners to bridge those gaps. So again, continue doing those things, making Minot, again, we talk about quality of life, retail recruitment, things. So when someone comes from out of town, they don't have to go to Bismarck to go to Red Lobster and get Cheddar Bay biscuits. That's the
Paul,
first
you're
thing
at 1 minute.
I used to hear all the time when I got on. So we need to make Minot a place that wants to do business.
Okay, thank you. Josiah, same question for you. If you were elected, how would you support the military in our community?
Well, I cannot advocate for spending these people's tax dollars to support the military, which is already funded by the federal government. That's one thing that's for certain. I'm grateful that we have the Minot Air Force Base because I can't deny what that attributes to our economy. And then therefore, I think, again, the power is in the people to be a welcoming community for those that are coming in. As far as government concerns are, I know that some of the Air Force Base guys I befriended at the gym would complain about things like getting ticketed for tinted windows because they come from southern states where the sun is hot, whether it's Florida or Oklahoma, Texas, and they come in here and all of a sudden they're getting ripped on for having tinted windows on their vehicles. So that's just a bad taste in the mouth that people get when the government says, hey, you can't just be how you are and who you are. You're just not doing any harm to anybody, but you can't do that here. We need less government involvement and more community outreach, and I think when the government gets out of the way, the people step up. I'll give a quick example of that. I witnessed a car accident just a couple days ago, and of course, fire trucks and ambulance and everybody showed up, but before they did, the people of Minot all stopped along the highway. We ran up through the ditch, got the people out of their vehicle, got them down to the road, applied first aid. The people of Minot, it's just a great community, and we can do it.
Okay, thank you, Josiah. Rob, same question for you. How would you, as an elected leader in our community, support our military?
Well, first of all, I think everybody in this room knows how important the Minot Air Force Base is to our community. It's $600 million a year in revenue that comes through our city for them. So we will continue as a city, I believe, to do the same things we always do. I mean, Task Force 21, as Mark talked about, is a great link between the city and the Air Force Base. How will I personally do it? The same way I've always done it. I thank my military members when I see them in the community. I've hired lots and lots of military members through jobs at my business. Those are the things that we have to keep doing. Paul also hit on a good point. We need to make Minot a place where the young people want to stay, and so those are things we have to explore. I don't have the answers to that, but we'd like to capture some of these young Air Force guys staying here when they're done with their career. So.
Okay, thank you, Rob. That wraps up that question. Let's move on to our next one. And thank you to everyone who's submitting questions online and here in person. We've got about, a lot of questions to go through. So let's move on with Paul first for this one. If you were to be elected, what are your top 2, 3, or 4 priorities that you would try and do as mayor of Minot in your first 100 days?
I touched on it right away. The mayor actually has less power than any one of us council members. Really does. You can't make motions, you can't draft policy, you're up there to run the meetings. The reputation of the city of Minot has to be rebuilt. We've had a lot of damage done. We are somewhat of a laughing stock of the state, and maybe you could even say the country, maybe even internationally, because some news traveled across the pond. Okay? So that's step number 1. We have to get integrity back into that position. Number 2, again, I'm a glass half full kind of guy. I don't think we're in that bad of shape. I think we're moving in a good direction. Minot was actually on a really good trajectory prior to some of the stuff that put us all at this table. But I think one of the things that we talked about with the economic development review committee that we had, getting one of the things that I'm excited to see is a land development committee. How can we get these developable lots? The city has made infrastructure investments into these developments that are sitting stagnant. How do we get people that want to develop and build those lots out so that instead of getting $500 or $300 on an empty lot, how do we get it so someone can come in there, develop 60 houses and get $5,000 a lot to lessen the burden on everyone else? We need to do the infill. We need to follow through on the investments we've made.
Okay, thank you. Josiah, the same question. If you were to be elected, what are your top 2, 3, or 4 priorities as mayor of Minot that you get done in your first 100 days?
First priority, above all, is law enforcement reform. Some of you have heard me talk about the constitutional sheriff. It's constitutionally founded. The police department does not. The police department is a bureaucracy. We don't get to vote for the chief of police, and there's too many hoops to jump through when you get a bad one, as we've just seen in recent times. All these hoops to jump through, and it's all kinds of expense, and then it's ultimately the relationship of law enforcement most directly affects the people more than whoever is up here in the city council, more than whoever is in the state legislature. What directly affects you on a daily basis is the law enforcement you interact with. So you need to be in charge of it. We're already in charge of the sheriff. That's how it's set up. The sheriff has jurisdiction over the entire county anyway. So by merging the departments, it cleans up so many issues. And if we don't have a good one, he's got to reconvince us in 4 years that he's the right guy for the job. Second priority is the water. I keep mentioning the water. Let's get the fluoride out, and I've got the lowdown, if I should call it that. I've got information on companies that make water filtration systems for, big enough for a city water department, for a water treatment plant. That would be a benefit to everybody. And then, of course, above all, the other thing is lowering taxes, which I'm out of time, but would coordinate to these other things I just mentioned.
Okay, thank you, Josiah. Rob, same question. What are your top 2, 3, or 4 priorities as mayor that you'd get done in your first 100 days?
2 big things, I think. Obviously, next year when we're going through this, in the next couple months as we're going through this, we're going to be in the budget process. So one of my main priorities right now is to cut our budget or lower our budget without cutting city staff or without taking away benefits from city staff. I think there's areas in there where we can do some work and bring it back. Obviously, having done that, that will hopefully start to drive down taxes on the property tax side at least. Second, my whole thing, and I've said this for a long time, I want the community to get back involved. I'm not 7 people sitting up there making decisions for everybody. I want to hear from the community. I mean, they've elected us. Yes, I get that. I understand that. But so many of us in the community have not felt heard for so long. I want people to re-engage. And how do we do that? We have to prove to them that we're going to do what they ask us to do. And that's what I would move forward on.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Mark Janser, same question. If you were elected, what are your top 2, 3, or 4 priorities as mayor of Minot that you'd get done in your first 100 days?
Thank you. So I think Rob is correct. I think after this election, we are going to be right at the point where we have to get the rest of the budget work done, and it's not an easy problem to solve. But I want to make sure that we adequately have a budget that will fund city services at the level that they need to be funded in order to move our city forward and continue the services that we provide to the community. The second thing is that we need to make sure that we continue to finish NAWS, which hopefully is within a year of being completed. Thirdly, we need to continue building flood protection so that the citizens in this community can be safe from a future flood threat, and also relieve them of the worry that if you're in the valley, all of a sudden you're going to be having to be
1 minute, Mark.
having to be paying flood insurance premiums that are $1,000 a month or more, that will decimate the property values in the valley. So those are key priorities and the things that we need to do right off the bat.
Okay, thank you. And I think that wraps up. Everyone answered that question. Okay, so this next question goes to Josiah first. The top priorities listed in the Minot Citizen Satisfaction Survey from late 2023, based on both importance and satisfaction combined, were two things: overall maintenance of city streets and sidewalks, and overall traffic flow on city streets. Do you support these priorities, and what would you do to help improve maintenance of city streets, sidewalks, and overall flow of traffic?
Well, good. I think I already kind of commented on this earlier. First off, the city streets and stuff, like I said, need to be cleaner for the safety of motorcyclists, aside from the aesthetic reasons for people coming into town from other places that go, oh man, it's a little dirty. And the snow removal, I already touched on that, so I won't waste time on that because I think that is a good solution, what I mentioned earlier, getting the people involved. But the flow of traffic, my goodness, oh, that's a can of worms. All right, so right now, we tore up almost the entire city. 16th Street, and then even the exit off to Broadway, if you take the bypass to skip 16th Street, and the exit that goes onto Broadway off of 52 and 2 is closed off too. So why are we tearing up all the streets all over town and then working on one spot at a time? Why don't we tear up this street, fix this street, tear up that street, fix that street? Me and Paul would be in big trouble with our rain gutter businesses if we went and tore the rain gutters off all the houses we're going to do for the season and then let the basements flood while we're taking our time getting back around to installing them. So that's one thing. 16th Street and 4th Avenue used to be 4-lane roads. Now they're 2-lane roads with a bicycle lane that almost nobody uses and a turning lane that goes into the river. I think that's nonsense, and it impedes the flow of traffic terribly. We had double the lanes before, and traffic literally moved twice as fast. Let's get back to that.
Okay, thank you, Josiah. Rob, same question. I won't read the whole thing, but basically those are the priorities that the citizens mentioned 2 years ago. Do you support these priorities, and how would you help improve maintenance of streets and sidewalks and overall flow of traffic?
Well, yeah, I absolutely support it. If that's what the community wants, then that's the direction we need to move. How would we support it? You know, last year in the budget process, we sat down with Lance, the city engineering department, and, you know, he said, how much can you do for the deferred maintenance, you know? And we got to a point where I think we gave him around $11 million. We said, if we give you another 3, can you do more? And he said, no, we don't have the staff. So I believe they're getting to the roads and everything as quick as they can. I do agree with Josiah. We maybe need to game plan a little bit better about what we're going to tear up and when we're going to tear up, you know, those types of things, because it is kind of tough to get around Minot right now. With regard to the flow of traffic, you know, I've noticed going up and down Broadway too at a couple different times of the day that things slow down or seem to be impeded, or you only get 1 or 2 cars through a light. Maybe we need to sit down and relook at the flow of on some of the major intersections and see if we need to change some of the timing or something like that.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Mark, same question?
I think Rob was correct in his figures on the street repairs. We have added over the last couple budgets additional money to try to catch up on the backlog on street repairs. Of course, what happens then is exactly what we're experiencing right now, which is that when we're doing it, which is in the short summer construction season, those roads are restricted or constricted or unavailable. And so it's a thing that we have to get through. And I understand the frustration with that, but we are trying to make the streets and roads better. With regard to traffic flow, I think that we are also funding and should continue to fund replacement of some of the old signals, street lights that we have, because when we do that, we can then incorporate them into the current system, which is very data driven and allows for modifications to be made to the timing and whether you get a yellow arrow or a green arrow and all of those kinds of things, so that traffic flow can be speeded up. I have had experience recently where
1 minute.
I started on South Broadway down by Marketplace and made it all the way up past the airport with all green lights. I can tell you that wasn't happening a number of years ago because of the technology. So we need to continue to do that and continue to make it better.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Paul, same question.
Okay, so yes, I do support this. It's the voice of the people. This is what they want, and we actually, again, you say this is a couple years old. We've done that, like to Mark's point. Over the last, we were at $8 million a year in road maintenance, facing a really heavy backlog of deferred maintenance. Running these roads down past past the maintenance point into actually full repairs. So then it becomes even more expensive. And so again, but we also want to keep taxes down, right? So again, you see that dilemma that we're in. So it's that balancing act. So we're sitting at about 12 million bucks. And again, to Rob's point, Lance says I can't do anymore. I don't have the staff to do it. So again, part of the problem is as well, a lot of these projects line up with federal funding. When federal funding is available and we parlay the local cost share into that, we're forced to kind of do some of these projects sometime. And in the reality, there's never a good time to tear up a road. There never is. But again, when we are able to leverage local dollars with either state or federal or DOT dollars, we need to take advantage of that to lessen the burden on our local taxpayers. And you can tell this question is a couple years old because I've driven a handful of times over the last month from North Broadway to South Broadway, and I've maybe gotten one red light. And that's a huge shout out to our traffic engineer, Stefan Jers, who is a godsend to this community. If you see Stefan, give him a high five because that's the reason that our traffic lights are running as efficiently as they are.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for answering that question, gentlemen. Let's move on to our next question now. This one starts with Rob. So it's a two-part question. Have you had a chance to review the most recent city budget? And then the second part is, what specifically would you change, add, or subtract to the budget?
Well, we're in the process of looking through the budget right now. We haven't been given the city manager's budget. We saw some highlights today from some of the departments. Obviously, I've said the same thing a number of times. What do I want to see come out of the budget? I want to see some of the waste and frivolous spending come out of the budget. Now, is there a ton of it? No, there is not, and I don't mean to imply there is. But we have some work to do in the city to make the people feel like we're not wasting their money at times. Now, I don't know how we get there every single time, all the time, but it's something we need to work towards because all of us in this community have felt that they take our taxes, they spend them on whatever they want, and they don't listen to what we want to do with them. And then we find out, well, hey, they're sitting on a bunch of excess reserves in the general fund as well. Those are things we need to look at. If we're collecting tax that we're not spending, then we don't need to put it back in the general fund. I think we need to give it back to the people, which is what we started doing last year.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Mark, same question. Have you had a chance to review a recent city budget? And what specifically would you change, add, or subtract to the budget?
Well, the most recent city budget that we've passed was the budget for the current year that we're in. And that budget was balanced by taking $3.5 million out of reserves so that we could balance the budget. That's not a sustainable approach. And so this year, when we come to the same kind of dilemma, we're going to have to figure out, and as Rob mentioned, today, tomorrow, and Friday are the presentations that we're getting from the department heads, and then we'll subsequently receive the city manager's budget. But, if these gross wasteful pieces can't be found to get rid of, we're going to be faced with the same dilemma that we had last year of we didn't find the savings, so what do we do to make sure that you all get the services that you expect and that we retain our employees and that we make sure that all of the services are maintained? That's going to be the challenge.
Okay, thank you. Paul, same question.
Yeah, well, again, like they said, we just got done. We ran up until 3 o'clock today, looking at our first preliminary kind of outlook overview of the budget. There's going to be a lot of tough decisions to be made. And again, some of the only ways to even maintain a flat budget was to get rid of employees. That's not going to be favorable. Is there ways that we can find efficiencies with implementing technologies and things like that? Absolutely. There's a lot of tools that are coming out to where we can, through attrition, someone leaves a position, we don't need to hire that position back because we can find efficiencies within the organization. We need to invest in our employees. It's going to be you want to really have a high tax burden, start to see high turnover. We've gone through that a couple different times when we've deferred employee raises and step increases, even just delayed them, not denied them, delayed them. We saw massive turnover that cost the city and taxpayers millions of dollars. We need to invest in our employees. We need to make sure that's a priority. We need to forego some of the new equipment to make sure that we invest in our employees. But again, we talk about reserves. Should we just use it to subsidize the budget? Is that just a feel-good thing to give money back to the people? Or should we put it to work for the people? They were taxed on it. We said we were going to put it to work. Let's put it to work. But we see we see some of the pending projects that could be hanging over our heads, whether that's a wastewater
minute,
treatment
Paul.
facility,
1 minute.
$95 million. That could come at any moment that was mandated by the federal government. Miles of lead service lines that need to be replaced. These are real expenditures that are very expensive, and it'll be a good thing if we have healthy reserves, just like your own household budget. So.
Okay, thank you. Josiah, same question then. Have you had a chance to look at the most recent city budget, and what specifically would you change, add or subtract to that budget?
I have not had a chance to look at the most recent city budget, but what I will say, to subtract from things that have been happening, all the money for the signage, the signs that say the high school's that way, the shopping district is that way, should not have been spent the way it was spent. That could be spent on the roads. It's like I could throw a rock and hit the mall from here, from where I can read that sign, but I can't get to it because the road's not clean. So there's things like that that need to be restructured. Special interest money that we were talking about at the beginning of this debate is stuff that should be spent on roads. You guys talk about how there's not enough money for these things, or it's not in the budget and stuff. It's like, well, transfer it from all these special interest things to the things that actually affect all of the people, the entire city, especially people that are coming into town that get that first impression. I mean, Donald Trump was right when he said, for all the debt that we have, we should have the most beautiful airports and the best roads in the world. But we're not. We're crumbling apart here. On a further note earlier about the traffic thing, I feel like the yellow lights are a little bit too short. You either got to slam the brake or hit the gas and look for cops. So, and hiring private contractors, if you don't have the staff, is another solution to that. Like, let's just get it done. It's a short season for road construction.
Here, 1 minute.
Cut the community service officer program because we don't need Walmart greeters on the tax dollars budget. We also need to transform the transit. I ran out of time to talk about that. But also in Florida, they work at night. When traffic isn't happening, they work at night, especially in the summer, and get the road done. You show up at 8 a.m., it's like, wow, amazing.
Okay, thank you, Josiah. We're done with that question. Let's move on to the next one. Start with Mark Janser on this one. What is your position on using special assessments for neighborhood or new housing developments? What is your position on using special assessments for neighborhood or new housing developments?
So typically, the developer puts in the infrastructure. In some cases, for things like streetlights, where they may not go in initially, you end up with you do a special assessment. Now, on the other hand, sometimes the problem is that you can't pencil that out. If the price of the lot is so much that, and you add the infrastructure in, the developer's not going to be able to sell that lot. So we have kind of a dilemma, and Paul's right. There are some areas where the cost of the infrastructure, I think on one up by the new junior high, was $80,000 a lot or something like that number. You're not going to get people to pay for those lots with that kind of
You're at 1 minute.
burden.
1 minute.
So we have to find some ways through that, and I think we maybe do it with some mix of special assessments and partnerships with the developers.
Okay, thank you. Paul, the same question for you. What is your position on using special assessments for neighborhood or new housing developments?
Yeah, new housing, we need to start to get on board. That's what special assessments are, a tool that are used across the state, whether it's Bismarck, Grand Forks, Fargo, Wilson. Those communities are growing. Now, it's a case-by-case basis. It is not a one-size-fits-all. Everyone should come. We should have ordinance and practices put in place and policy set in place that when these developments come, and if that's what's needed to bridge the gap, I'll use an example. One that came to our came to a council meeting was Bolton Heights. It was 60 lots or so. It was about $8,000 to $15,000 per lot to have a sewer system that goes from 2 services down to 1 service because they wanted to do single-family homes. We voted that down. And that was probably the thing that was holding that up. That would have put 60 developable lots on the tax roll to be developed, but we're afraid of specials because of a one-off scenario that happens somewhere else in the state. We have to be willing to have these conversations. Those are tools that are set forth by state law that we can utilize to get these housing developments up and running. That puts contractors to work. It puts kids into homes, puts families into homes, puts more per pupil dollars into the school board budget, and it lessens the burden. We have to work on our housing development.
1 minute. Okay. Perfect. Josiah, same question to you. What is your position on using special assessments for neighborhood or new housing developments?
Supply and demand is my principle there. I mean, do we have a housing shortage? Who's shopping for houses right now? I've seen a lot of for sale signs for houses in Minot, and I don't see anybody fighting over them. Now, during the oil boom, or especially after the Minot flood, it was crazy, the demand. People were renting, box trucks to sleep in. Workers were coming in and tenting in other people's backyards. But we don't have that going on right now. So what I don't want to do is put the cart before the horse, and especially on the taxpayer's dime, having the engineers draw it up and everything. As it is in the past, I've seen where private developers are shut down by local government, whether it's the city council or the county commission. They're told, like my uncle, for example, was told he couldn't develop his land out in Tressa Valley because it was too close to a shooting range. There's already houses out there. That's not the government's call to make, to tell a private developer that he can't develop that land and build houses because they think nobody wants to buy them. That's up to the buyers. It's not the government's job to get involved in all that stuff. It just gets in the people's way, and again, government getting in the way doesn't do anybody any good. We don't need their permission. We don't need any of that stuff. As far as funding it with taxpayer dollars, I'm against that unless there's some kind of extreme need for it that I'm unaware of. And shout out, happy birthday, Uncle Dave, our old boss.
Okay, thank you, Josiah. Rob, same question for you.
I'm against I'm against special assessments 100%. I mean, I come from the banking world, so in that world, developers always paid for the infrastructure. That was the cost of doing business. They want to make the millions of dollars to do the development or to build the homes. They had to put the money in up front to do it. Now, I come back here and I see that they do things differently. I think if you look across the state, Bismarck and Fargo, both of them, and I won't even bring up Horace, but Bismarck and Fargo, both of them are having issues with special assessments. Imagine two people in a city, both selling their home. One has a special assessment on it and the other one doesn't. Is that fair? Because the one group is going to be impacted. Hey, I'll go buy that house. It doesn't have a special on it. Additionally, I think special assessments, more than anything, are only used I won't say only used, hurt more than anybody the lower class people or the new home buyers, the people just getting into homes, because the people that are spending $500 to $1 million on a home, they don't care about a special assessment. They're just going to pay for the lot and whatever they need. But the folks, the young families looking to build their first home, looking to get into their first home, those people can't afford specials. So I'm against them.
Okay, thank you, Rob. That wraps up that question. Those were a number of the prepared questions that we had. We've gotten a lot of great questions submitted online and throughout the last hour, so we're going to start getting to some of those questions now. I think we start now with Paul on this next question. So the question is, do you think that this special election is a good use of taxpayers' money and city staff time, and why do you feel that way?
Sorry, Josiah, but no, I don't. I wish we could have. I wish we could have coasted in. I wish we as a council could have appointed someone to fill out the position for the remainder of the term. I felt like Mark would have been a calming voice in troubled seas, and we could have coasted into what would be the regular schedule of election. However, with the caveat that Josiah had every right to collect signatures as a voice of the people. I can't deny that. But that's why we're here. That's why everyone threw their hat in the ring, because we feel like Minot needs to get back on track. Even if it's only for 10 months or so, it's an opportunity to get Minot back to being what we have been, and that's a respectable community. So.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Josiah, same question for you. Do you think that this special election is a good use of taxpayers' money and city staff time, and why do you feel the way that you feel?
I would say absolutely it is. As Paul already commented, it is the will of the people. It's the voice of the people. We did not choose, to have things happen the way they did. So our choice comes in, rather than having someone slide into the mayor position and then having the 6 people on city council choose by their appointment a 7th member of city council. This is the only way that the people can make that decision. And there's some very crucial things on the docket this year. The $75 million police station and the Flock AI camera system that I'm so strongly against. Both those things I'm so strongly against, as they'll raise taxes and they're an infringement on freedom. The AI cameras are an infringement on freedom. So it's absolutely worthwhile. City employees' time, I think it's time well spent, because this is spent on the people in their best interest. And obviously it's why I decided to run for the position as well. I had that in mind before I petitioned for it. And on that note, it's like, here we are again. Now that my only opponents are the ones that are on city council, the decision still falls. If you vote for me, that's how you know you're getting the 7th member of city council. Otherwise, the whole election is for nothing if any of them get elected, because then they're just rolling the dice, 6-sided cube.
Josiah, you're
6
1
will
minute.
decide who's the next member of the city council.
Okay, same question to you, Rob. Do you think this special election is a good use of taxpayer money and city staff time, and why do you feel the way that you feel?
You know, again, I realize it was the people's choice. I don't think it was a good choice to waste our tax dollars. Now, I realize that the people spoke, and I don't always have to agree with the people, and they don't always have to agree with me. But we had, I don't know how many signatures you turned in, Josiah, somewhere between 300 and 500 that made the decision for 47,000 people to have an election. And while I understand that was the limit he had to hit, I thought we could have waited 10 months to have the election next year. But again, if that's the people's decision, we're here, and so let's do it.
Okay, and Mark, finish us off on this question.
Happy to bat cleanup. So, the system works. The transition from the previous mayor was abrupt, but services continued. Things have gone normally since then. And so the other part of the system that works is that there was a petition to have an election, and we're having an election. And I'm fine with that. I think that we have come a long way in the intervening time here to have a bit of stability and to have our government continuing to run. And so August 5th, we're going to have an election. I think it's just fine.
Okay, thank you. So next question, I think we start with Josiah on this question. So again, this is a submitted question. Are any of you willing to lead the way at all levels of city and local government by, quote, cleaning house and, quote, starting over? Or do you feel that it's more about minor tweaks and changes? Josiah.
I would definitely say starting over is almost the wrong word. I mean, I could say that as far as my lifetime and the lifetime of anybody else that's in this room, but I am restoring the Constitution. That's my goal, is to restore the constitutional principles that the country and this state, within the state constitution, were founded upon. And a lot of people aren't quite picking up on it. They don't even realize, because the Constitution isn't really required learning anymore, they don't even realize the constitutional principles that are being trampled by our current government today. So it's, yes, I'll be leading the charge and leading by example. And even on that note, on the minor tweaks and stuff, my gosh, if the roads aren't getting done and stuff properly in times of emergency, I'll be out there shoveling stuff myself. Yes. And then furthermore, we need people on board that are on here to swear an oath to the Constitution and to know it. Because if you know it and you're violating it, then you are certainly unfit to lead.
Okay, thank you, Josiah. Rob, same question for you. Are you willing to lead the way at all levels of city and local government by, quote, cleaning house and, quote, starting over? Or do you feel that it's more about minor tweaks and changes?
Well, I'm ready to lead the way. I don't think we need to clean house. I mean, I realize that there's some people out there that feel that way. We have a lot of good employees in the city. I think what most of us would like to see is things done a little bit differently, a little bit more efficiently, where we feel like we're listened to, we're being heard, and they're spending our tax dollars correctly.
Okay, thank you.
It's tweaks.
Okay. Mark, same question for you.
I think the city government does a lot of things well. There's certainly always room for improvement, but I think we're delivering services each and every day, and that's a benefit that the taxpayers receive for the taxes that are collected. And so I don't think tearing things down and dismantling everything and starting over is what's required. I think we need to continue to make improvements and continue to try to give a good value for the tax dollars that we're collecting.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Paul, same question again. Are you willing to lead the way at all levels of city and local government by, quote, cleaning house and, quote, starting over? Or do you feel that it's more about minor tweaks and changes?
Yeah, I think anybody who's sitting at the table right now is willing to lead. We did what we needed to do to be able to talk to everyone. But I think it's minor tweaks, and I think a lot of it comes from doing a better job of communicating, do a better job of telling our story. We have the best staff, and I've witnessed that. I've gone out with, I've got calls from individuals that were upset about it was a curb and gutter project or whatever it might be. I remember former city engineer, he now works with a local engineering company, Jesse Berg, met me out in the field with staff, the homeowner. I probably wanted to call me every name under the sun. By the end of it, we were shaking hands and telling old stories about people we knew in common. I mean, again, just getting face to face with our community, getting out there and telling our story, the who, the what, the where, the when, the why. Those are the biggest things, because a lot of the times it's just a lack of information. It's a lack of knowledge between what the city is doing, and they see a road's closed and they wonder why. Again, getting our PIO office, that is great with getting out, whether it's biweekly podcasts, going over the upcoming agendas, follow up with agendas. Those things empower citizens to have the knowledge.
1 minute.
So again, it's very easy to be upset when you don't know why something's happening. So again, getting that knowledge out, I think, is very important.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen, on that question. The next question, I believe we start with Rob on this one. So the question comes, the individual asks, how will you show support to Minot residents with disabilities and those in the LGBTQ plus population?
Well, again, I think the city does a good job currently. We could always do better. Obviously, I know Billy comes in quite a bit and talks to us on the council. We need to continue to make sure that all ADA services are available and being honored the way they're supposed to be. I mean, that's federal law, right? There can be no discrimination amongst any groups, disabilities, LGBTQT, anything in this city. And I think that's our role, just to make sure that we continue to foster that environment and continue to support them however they feel that they need. I mean, now there's a limited role though that the city has in some of that stuff. So I think we continue to do what we have been doing. We can always improve in certain areas. And if there's anybody being discriminated against, then that's as a city where we step in and make sure that that doesn't happen any longer.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Mark Janser, same question. How will you show support to Minot residents with disabilities and those in the LGBTQ plus population?
I think it's important that everybody who's in this city knows that they are welcome, that they are respected, that the invitation is there to participate in civic life. I think that the more folks that come and participate in our council meetings and in our government, the better. And it doesn't matter, what your persuasion is with regard to, religion or lifestyle. I mean, all of that, everybody's welcome. And I think that's the message that we need to get out there. People are people. And I think in this community, there's a good amount of live and let live. And I support that. And that would be the message that I would bring.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Paul, same question.
This makes me think of a shirt that my son had, and it's probably in a tub somewhere waiting for our next son to grow into it. But it says, "Boys will be good humans," and I think that's the best thing we can do is just be good humans. I want people to feel like if they want to engage in like Mark said, civic life, if they want to run. Carrie Evans was one of my favorite people that I've served with. She was so passionate. She cared about this community. Did we see eye to eye on everything? Absolutely not. We actually saw the world very differently. But we found common ground in the fact that we wanted Minot to be open. We wanted it to be caring. I don't care if you're gay. I don't care if you're black. I don't care if you're straight. I don't care if you like guns. I don't care if you hate guns. Be a good human. That's what we can do. And we can lead by example in our own personal lives and the way that we treat each other. That's what we need to do. And that's the best way that I view it to my home life and to my kids. The best thing I can do is be respectful to myself, be respectful to my spouse and set a good example. We can be respectful to each other. That's how we support everyone.
Okay, thank you, Paul. And Josiah, finish us off on this question. How will you show support to Minot residents with disabilities and those in the LGBTQ plus population?
People with the disabilities, it is difficult for those of us that don't have those disabilities to, share the viewpoint if we're not mindful of it. So if things can be brought to our attention that, if we need more handicap ramps and stuff, then by all means, then we need to do that. Because it's not a discriminatory thing necessarily, it's just out of sight, out of mind, if you're not thinking about those things. As far as the LGBTQ community, you guys will not be surprised, since I already kind of had this showdown with Mayor Sipma some years ago, that it is not the role of government to be involved in special interest groups like that at all. The American flag already represents everyone's freedom to be straight or gay or whatever they want to be. You can put that bumper sticker on your car, just don't put it on my car, and I won't put one on yours either. And you mentioned you don't care about, Paul mentioned not caring about if people like guns. I've never had a cop ask me at the window, by the way, are you gay or straight or what's the deal? What they do say is, you got any weapons in the vehicle? Step out of the vehicle. And so that is a thing that is, that is a right that is discriminated against. We have constitutional carry. I have a right to have a gun in the vehicle. It don't have to be you don't have to make a big deal about it, but if you're not going to make a big deal about whether or not somebody's gay, how about actually protecting constitutional rights? They have the right to be gay under the American flag. I have a right to have a gun under the American flag. Is my right.
Okay, thank you, Josiah. Thank you, gentlemen. I believe that wraps up that question. So this next question starts with Mark Janser. Mark, the individual asks, how will you consider or take in the opinions, knowledge, and experience of the department heads as those that are employed by the city of Minot? How will you take that in as mayor?
Very thoughtfully. The department heads that we have, for the most part, are professionals. They probably know more about their area of expertise than I do. And so I certainly want to listen and try to understand, what they're telling me and how they got to the conclusions that they reached. That said, sometimes there are other elements that we understand from talking to people in the community, other factors regarding funding and so forth, where what may be deemed to be the best and perfect solution from their point of view may not be what we can do or what we can recommend. And so that's the kind of conversation. It needs to be give and take. It needs to be respectful. It needs to be cognizant of what their role is in the process. So it's sort
You're
of
at
like
1 minute, Mark.
So it's sort of like, you're being given counsel and advice. It's a good thing if you listen to it.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Paul, same question for you. How will you consider or take in the opinions, knowledge, and experience of the City of Minot department heads?
Again, I echo a lot of what Mark said. We are the gatekeepers of taxpayer dollars, right? We control policy, we control funding to departments, and I think department heads understand that. They understand that they are a spoke in the wheel of Minot. They are just one leg of the entire city budget. So fire is competing with Public Works, they're competing with the police department on funding, where there's only so many dollars to go around. So again, we have to understand that these people are not malicious. They care about Minot. This is their home too. They want Minot to be the best version of Minot it can be. So again, when we take in their opinions, we take it in thoughtfully, like Mark said. We weigh the options. We have to weigh the greater good of Minot. We have to say, what can we afford now? What can wait? What needs to be a pressing matter? And we need to have constructive conversations, not destructive ones. These people are coming with the best of intentions for the city. So again, I think it's being thoughtful, and again, we have to look at the data. I'm a numbers guy. When we make decisions, I want all of the information that we can possibly have so that we can weigh out the options of what we need from our department heads. And that's probably the toughest part, not only about this job, but it's also the job of being a department head.
1 minute.
You might have a
1
great
minute.
idea. The worst thing is that sucks the most is that council might say no. You pick it up and you move on to the next thing, and you do what you can for Minot.
Okay, Josiah, same question for you. How will you consider or take in the opinions, knowledge, and experience of the City of Minot department heads?
For taking in the experience of department heads, that's something I'm very grateful for, as I'd be a newcomer onto the council in a first season, that there are people that have been there for a good long while to counsel with. I find myself very closely aligned with Scott Samuelson's voting record and with Mike Blessum's voting record, some things with Rob Fuller. And I'm grateful that there's people that are also in the other department heads that have been there a long time, but that doesn't mean that there aren't improvements that can't be made. We can compare it to other cities. We can look at places where it's going a little better in that exact department, and what does a phone call hurt? To call and say, what are you guys doing differently than we're doing? And sometimes people are friendly about sharing that information. There's no reason not to be. I was going to mention this earlier about the budget stuff, that I've even been in contact with someone that can get a Doge representative over here, a former Doge employee from Elon Musk's program, that can actually come in and introduce some of their principles right here in Minot to cut down on our budget and to save things. So it's good that there's well experienced department heads out there, but I would definitely look at ways that we can chisel it down. I've done that before with other businesses that I've owned and taken over from prior owners, that you can take
minute.
over and look at what can be cut.
Okay, thank you, Josiah. Rob, same question.
First, we do have great employees in the city of Minot. And while I respect and will listen to every single one of them, and they don't always agree with me and I don't always agree with them, my job is to ask tough questions. The community wants to know, why are we spending this money? Why are we doing this way? That's one thing I didn't hear up here from anybody else. We're here to find out what the community wants to know, and that means we have to ask the questions. It's not disrespectful. It's not degrading or anything else. It's a hard question, and like they said, they're professionals. If they can't stand up there and answer the hard questions that the community wants the answers to, that's where we got to come up with different ways then to communicate, because while they are the people that we've hired to do the job, the people in Minot have elected us to sit up there and ask the questions, because they don't get to come in here and ask them. And that's what we need to keep doing. I will always be respectful. I will always listen to them. But the public's opinion is what is the most important in my mind.
Okay, thank you, Rob. That wraps up that question. Let's move on to the next one. This one starts with Paul. Paul, the mayor holds a highly visible role, numerous public responsibilities, often serves as the face of the city. Would you be able to commit to attending city events, key meetings? Are you able to put in the hours required to be a mayor?
Yeah, I think that's something that we've all considered when you put your hat in the ring. Can you commit to the responsibilities? And yes, you have to be able to do that. You have to be able to make the appearances, because you are the face of the community. But that also you also don't want to be the only face of the community. You have to empower your staff. You have to you have to empower the people that are actually achieving things. Whether that's awards for infrastructure projects. Put the people that are doing the work at the forefront. Empower your staff. Recognize your staff. Recognize the other members on council. It's not a job that the mayor does alone. It's a vanity position. I get it. You get the spotlight. You're the face. But again, bringing everybody forward. And kind of many hands make light work in that regard.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Josiah, you're next. The mayor is a highly visible role, lots of public responsibilities, the face of the city. Would you be able to commit to attending those city events, key meetings? Are you able to put in the hours required to be mayor?
You wouldn't be able to keep me away from those meetings. I thrive in engaging with the people. I'm a business owner, as I've mentioned before, and I set my own schedule. I'm very flexible in that regard. I'm also single and childless, which also opens up my schedule a lot, because I can be married to it and it can be my baby. And I'm totally fine with the responsibilities that go with that. I don't mind the spotlight. I'm not afraid to be in the spotlight, as I've been on TV shows and stuff before, American Ninja Warrior, ridiculousness. Some of those things are very glorifying. Some of them are a little bit embarrassing, can be. But I don't feel embarrassed by it, because I just have a good time engaging with people and engaging with the public. And I would look forward to nothing more than to, fostering that kind of relationship with the people of Minot. I love the people of Minot, as I mentioned before. I think that is where the magic is. In the magic city of Minot, it's in the people, and I love being part of the people.
Okay, thank you, Josiah. Rob, same question. Would you be able to commit to attending the city events, key meetings? Are you able to put in the hours required to be mayor?
Yeah, that would be no problem. I'm currently doing it. I know there's a little bit of an increase with mayoral duties, but yeah, there wouldn't be any issue attending and being at everything.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Mark, same question.
I'm very happy to do it. I think it's part of what you do as a servant leader. My wife and I have kind of had an interesting retirement. She retired first, then went back to work. I retired and ended up doing more things with the Air Force, going on more trips to DC and so forth. And now here I am as the acting mayor. And so, I'm committed and willing and able to make those kinds of appearances.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Let's go on to the next question that was submitted. We'll start with Josiah on this one. The city has some large reserve balances. How do you feel about following the practice from last year, where those reserves were used to pay for general fund projects in lieu of collecting property taxes to pay for those projects?
I'm fundamentally against property tax, and I think it needs to be abolished. It's against the readings in our state constitution, which is why I support that everybody that takes this job should read and be very well versed in that state constitution, because you shouldn't be renting your property from the government. My family homesteaded here back in the 1800s, and we're still paying property tax on that today. So if it has to come from property tax, then I just can't get behind that. As far as the reserves go, we obviously need to keep some reserves in case, snow plow or something like that, something big and expensive goes down, an elevator or something in this building. I've heard that that's a very expensive thing. We need to maintain reserves, but not in property tax. When you cut property tax, when you cut red tape, when you cut regulations, the economy flourishes and the people pay for it with sales tax. And so it's a much more honest way of getting the money to be there. We got to eliminate property tax, and I guess encourage people to flourish in the economy. That'll pay for things on its own. It's been proven by Reagan and by Trump. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Josiah. Rob, same question. The city has some large reserve balances. How do you feel about following the practice from last year where those reserves were used to pay for general fund projects in lieu of collecting property taxes to pay for those?
Well, I'm fine with that practice. We were the first ones, Mike, Scott, and myself, to bring that up. But what I would rather do is set up the budget the correct way so we don't over-collect from the citizens, so they have that money in their pocket and they can do with it what they choose rather than what we're sitting there trying to decide to do. I mean, in my mind, it isn't fair to collect tax to say, hey, our budget's 100 million, we only spent 98 million, so we got 2 million left over. Well, if we only spent 98 million, why did we collect 100? We had to know going in that we were going to have a little bit of leeway there. So I would think it would be a better option to set the budget a little more strictly and say, hey, we're not going to try to over collect anything. We're going to adhere to this as closely as possible. I mean, we have $40 million in unrestricted reserves in the general fund. Do we need to collect more extra to put in there year after year after year? I don't believe we do.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Mark, same question. How do you feel about following the practice from last year where reserves were used to pay for general fund projects in lieu of collecting property taxes to pay for those?
Well, I think it may turn out that that's one of the alternatives we need to consider. I don't think it's an ideal practice because it's not sustainable over time. Balancing the budget should be balancing the budget, and I guess that's where we would need to try to figure out where we're at over the next, and we'll be doing that over the next month or so. So not a desirable practice. As far as those reserves, some of that is mandated by statute as to how much we need to retain, and there is some there's a cap of how much it can be, and then a minimum. And within that, there's some leeway. And so in order to maintain the bonding that we have, in order to have some reserves for contingencies when something, as you say, large breaks or happens,
1 minute.
We need to have some amount to be able to use for that. And there's some difference of opinion on the council at present as to how much exactly that should be. So we're working through that.
Okay, thank you, Mark. And Paul, wrap us up on this question.
Okay, this is where I wish we could be in council and have Dave Layfield come up and answer our questions. So last year being the first year that we subsidized the budget, that's just not true. We've done it the last 4 budget cycles, I think to the tune of like $2 million to subsidize so that we didn't have to overtax citizens. That's just a fact. Last year, like I say, we've done the last handful of budgets. My opinion, again, it's a sticking point. What's the appropriate level of reserves to have? Again, when we talk about some of those looming projects or some of the economic factors that have come into place, whether it was COVID, we went through a boom and bust. Like, we need to have reserves. We need to have healthy reserves so that we can protect taxpayers' dollars from those economic highs and lows. My thought on it is, if we're going to use those dollars, let's not subsidize and lie to ourselves about what government costs. Let's put those dollars to work. Let's invest those dollars into our roads. We heard from our citizens. We want better roads. We want better infrastructure. Well, let's put it to work. And who benefits from that? Local contractors that are coming into our community that are getting the work, that are taxpayer dollars that are improving our city. So to me, I think more so than just subsidizing government, let's invest it into our
1 minute.
people.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Let's move on to our next question now. Describe, and I believe this one starts with Rob. We're back to you again. Okay. Describe your level of commitment to completing the flood protection project. What timeline or funding would you set? Any desire to see this through sooner rather than later, knowing that costs are likely to rise?
Yeah, well, obviously, I've been very outspoken about flood control and the costs on it. Is it something we have to do and finish? Absolutely. Is it something we have to do and finish at the level we're doing? That's something I think we could talk about. We absolutely have to finish the flood control program. I'm all in favor of doing it faster. If the state would give us all the money that we need so we can start doing all the projects right away, I mean, within the time frame. I mean, we just can't have it take another 10 or 15 years. As this project continues to go, as I said the other night, it started at $1 billion, which our share was $350 million as a community. Now it's ballooned to $1.5 billion. That means our share is up over $525 million. And if it keeps going and drags out as inflationary costs happen, it's going to get to $2 billion. We're a city of 47,000 people that want to spend $2 billion on flood control. That doesn't seem irresponsible to anybody. I think a lot of us feel that way. So, I mean, we have to finish it. If we can finish it faster, that's great. If we can find ways to cut some of the costs, I think that would be great as well.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Mark, same question. Describe your level of commitment to completing the flood protection project. What timeline or funding would you set? Any desire to see it through sooner rather than later?
I've been very consistent over time since 2012, when I was one of the council members that voted to go forward with the Mouse River Enhanced Flood Protection Plan. And we need to keep moving, keep building that project, and eventually protect everybody in the community. To stop or to say, well, let's pause because it's costing us a good deal of money. What neighborhood do you want to leave exposed? I don't want to leave anybody exposed. I made multiple trips down to the state legislature this spring after April 1st and spent time visiting with legislators to make sure that we got the maximum that they were willing to appropriate to our project. And it turned out that for the biennium, that's some $83 million. So we're going to keep building that project, and there's a lot that we can do for that amount of money.
1 minute.
It's critical that we get MI4 done, which is the Maple Street diversion piece, because that links the east and the west parts that are completed, and that will protect about 60% of the citizens who were flooded in 2011.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Paul, same question. Describe your level of commitment to completing the flood protection project.
So yeah, 100% committed. This is something that we have to do. You know, again, I've used this example before. My kids are getting more expensive to raise. I'm not going to walk away from them. This is our kid. We have to raise them. We have to finish this project. We got to get them out of the house. So again, number of reasons. Insurance rates are going to price people out of the valley. If you live in the valley and you're not protected, your insurance rates will skyrocket to over $1,000 a month potentially, or they'll eventually have a step increase to where you reach that rate today, that existing rate today of insurance. You will devalue the value of the homes in the valley. Well, the city's got to make that up somewhere. It's going to go to the hills. It's going to go to North Hill, South Hill. We'll have to offset, and your values will increase because no one's going to want to live in the valley. No one will be able to afford to live in the valley, to be honest with you. The increased costs that we're seeing, that's part of the life we live in, right? And that's part of the economic pressures we have. Should we bond more to protect ourselves? Again, we've got a great staff in Dave Lakefield and our finance department. They do a great job of trying to find the efficiencies with this project to get it done as quickly as possible. But again, we're married to this. We cannot stop. And Mark's right. Getting from Terracita Vallejo all the way out past Railway Avenue completed is going to protect a great portion of the valley, and those people will not be subject to those flood insurance rates.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Josiah, same question for you. Describe your level of commitment to completing the flood protection project.
To make an informed decision, I would prefer to see all the numbers and stuff in front of me and really become an expert and study it myself, which I have not yet at this time. But I'll tell you one of the reasons why. After the 1969 flood, they said it'll never flood again. I think a bunch of us in this room know that that dam was mismanaged. Corps of Engineers and Game and Fish Department were a match made in hell, keeping the dams full all winter to protect the wildlife, the fishing walleye population because it was good for game, was ridiculous. I personally believe that this flood was government's fault. As I said earlier, government sucks at pretty much everything. And I could even entertain the idea of a conspiracy theory that it was actually maybe allowed to happen for the purpose of a land grab. My brother-in-law's property in that event, that, eminent domain, they just said he can't have it there anymore. My parents were flooded. I'd like to see a commitment of statements from insurance companies to these homeowners saying that they're going to lower it, because we can all hypothesize that their insurance, won't require it. It wasn't required before. When my parents flooded, they were not in a flood zone. The insurance company could say, hey, fool me once, shame on me, but we're not doing this again. So there's not even a guarantee that they're going to drop that down in all the affected areas. I would entertain putting it to a city vote or to a vote of the districts that are affected by it.
Okay, thank you, Josiah. I believe that wraps up that question. We're going to move on to the next one from Mark Janser to start us with. Minot has recently been designated as a Metropolitan Planning Organization, or MPO, as it relates to transportation planning. Do you believe this status has been beneficial? If so, how? If not, why not?
Thank you for the question. So I'm currently serving as the chairman of the Municipal Planning Organization Board. And our MPO includes Surrey and Burlington. And we have been meeting for going on 2 years. And I will tell you that out of that, we have approximately $500,000 a year that has been designated to us, and we are involved in most recently soliciting a study for transit within the MPO area, and I think it's going to be very beneficial, because we're going to get a lot of information that we can use to build out or revamp our transit and make things better.
1 minute. 1 minute.
So yes, I think it is a good thing. I think it is coming up to speed, and I think it's going to bear benefits as we go forward.
Okay, thank you. Paul, same question. Minot has recently been designated, or the Minot area, as Metropolitan Planning Organization. Do you believe this status has been beneficial? If so, how? If not, why not?
Yes, I do believe it's beneficial. It's going to come with a number of funding opportunities for projects, for whether it's for studies to find efficiencies within transit. But that's not to say there haven't been growing pains. There is. There's going to have to be partnerships that are formed, whether it's through the city of Minot, memorandums of understanding with Surf Basin Transit. But again, we're in that phase where we're kind of figuring it out. Mark's right, and I sit as the alternate on that committee. We don't know what we don't know. So right now we're in that data collection phase of this project, of this change. We're finding efficiencies within that, finding the partnerships that we need to have within that. And again, at the end of the day, I think it will be a great benefit to Minot.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Josiah, would you like me to repeat the question, or are you okay? Okay. Minot has recently been designated as a Metropolitan Planning Organization as it relates to transportation planning. Do you believe this status has been beneficial? If so, how? If not, why not?
Not knowing how long the program has been there, I'm not sure how beneficial I could say that it's been without looking at all the stuff myself. I don't have the time on the council that the others do and have not had these things in front of me. However, I do have ideas for how to make the transit system much more efficient and effective. And one would be with modern technology, the same way that people use Uber within our transit system. You've got all these huge buses that drive around and pick up sometimes 1 to 2 people to go across town, and that's it. And it's like that could be downsized to 15-passenger vans instead of these big buses. All the maintenance, everything on those big heavy vehicles is so much more expensive than on a smaller vehicle. Furthermore, what I said about technology, just like Uber, if there's not anybody sitting there, we don't need all the time and fuel and waste and have people waiting to go all of these stops when there's nobody there. Instead, if we had a push button like they have at the crosswalks, at an intersection, you push the button when you need to cross. It's like there could be an indicator like that, or people could have the app on their phone to be like, there's one spot in town where somebody's actually waiting for a ride. Go directly there so they're not sitting out there freezing cold, and don't waste all the fuel and all the time buzzing around to other stops. That could be way more efficient, especially with today's technology.
1 minute. 1 minute. Okay, Rob, same question for you.
Well, I think if you watched the last couple city council meetings and ask Service Basin Transit, I would tell you, I don't think they feel that it's been beneficial. I don't know that we're seeing any of the benefit yet because it is creating heartburn and issues that are coming up that now the citizens are having to put money in, or the city on behalf of the citizens are having to put money in. So I would hope that we would see some more benefit of it. But honestly, I sit on the fence because it's the federal government stepping in, telling us how we need to do everything again. And I think it's caused some issues that we didn't necessarily need to deal with. I mean, we're not a town of 50,000 people. We were for a minute, and now we're not. So I don't know how it's helping us. I think it's causing more heartburn than anything.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Let's move on to our next question. Paul, we'll start with you. How do you think the city can better reach and involve more residents in local government? How do you think the city can better reach and involve more residents in local government?
Just get out in front of them. We've done that. For my first time on council, we just started to do the Facebook Live meetings, and we were on local TV channels. Now we're on YouTube. Now we have a PIO office that has taken what our former PIO, Derek Hackett, did, and Jennifer Clean and Brian Obachain and T. Mitch Cavigny. They've really taken it to another level to get out in front of the people, get people so that they can engage with their government as directly as possible. Having just to be visible in the community is one thing, but then again, having an environment at council to feel like your voices are heard, or that you can reach out to your elected officials, or you can reach out to your staff, and that's the great thing. You don't actually have to even come to a council meeting to ask questions half the time. You can pick up your phone, you can call Public Works, you can get Jason Sorensen on the phone, and he'll either meet you out in the field or he'll give you the answer that you need. So again, we have just great staff and getting that message out there that we are all approachable, not only as elected officials, but as city staff. We all want what's best for Minot. So again, I think just creating that environment to where we communication goes both ways.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Josiah, same question to you. How do you think the city can better reach and involve more residents in local government?
I would have to agree about getting out there as much as possible, and I think I started off by doing it by getting the petition together to make this election happen. I went and talked to hundreds and hundreds of people for that, and then I went, of course, and I found hundreds of strangers again to be, to get my signatures for candidacy to run for mayor. And you know what? I had a lot of fun with it. Even for the people that said no to it. It's like I love engaging with the people, and like Mr. Pittner said earlier about the mayor being kind of the face of it. And think about a celebrity. If you guys who watch maybe Jay Leno or something like that on a regular basis saw Jay Leno coming up the sidewalk, wouldn't you go say hi? Wouldn't you say hello to somebody that's a familiar face that you feel like you know? So this past weekend I went to the Scandinavian Park. They had this big Midsummer's Fest. There was people dressed as Vikings, big fire. It was a good time. And the woman organizing the event actually told me that she had invited Tom Ross when he was mayor and invited Sean Sitma when he was mayor to come and speak and kick the thing off, and they didn't respond. They didn't go for it. And I thought, man, I wouldn't miss that chance. I love being involved in doing this. So like I said about when you're seen, when you're in the public eye that much, people develop a comfort level with you. Like I know Conan O'Brien doesn't know me, but I feel like I know him, and we can do that on a local level with the mayor's office.
Okay, Rob, same question for you. How do you think the city can better reach and involve more residents in local government?
That's a great question. I feel like our public information office does a good job of putting information out there. But then you hear in the community, I didn't know about this. I hadn't heard about this. I didn't see this. So I think while we're communicating and we're doing things one way, the citizenry isn't receiving it the way they need to receive it. So I think we need to do all sorts of things, like with the election. I've said this from day one. Every week, we should be putting something in the newspaper. We should be putting something on the news stations. We should be putting out, hey, 7 weeks to the election, 6 weeks to the election. That way, everybody hears about everything all the time. You know, other issues. I had one business owner tell me at one point, she was very concerned because they closed the street down in front of her. She said, had they notified me prior, I wouldn't have ordered stuff because I know things would have been slowed down. But they gave her 3 days notice. Instances like that where residents and businesses are going to be impacted by street closures, and I know sometimes there's emergencies, so I'm not referring to that. But instances where we're going to close streets and it's going to impact communities and businesses, we need to give those people 30 days.
1 minute. Thank you, Rob. Mark, finish us off on this question.
I think we need to keep trying more things and new things. We've come a long ways in terms of, being accessible. I mean, all of our cell phone numbers are out there. All of our emails are out there. You walk into the grocery store and somebody grabs you and says, hey, tell me about this issue that was on the agenda or what happened with that. And so we've started having these neighborhood meetings where we go somewhere in the city. Most recent one was at the transit center downtown here. And, we had 25 people show up, and we talked about all kinds of things. A couple of those were in wheelchairs, and they were talking about what it's like to ride the city transit system with a wheelchair. So, I mean, we have to keep trying new things. Not everybody's on social media. Not everybody reads the Minot Daily News. Sorry, Jill. Not everybody watches TV. On the 6 o'clock news on the channels in town. I mean, we have to keep trying new things and try to get to people
1 minute.
and get them involved.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Let's move on to some of our last couple of questions. We're nearing 6 o'clock, so it looks like we've got maybe time for 2 or 3 more questions. Beyond the recent updates, this one is for Josiah first. So beyond the recent updates to building codes, what specific steps or ideas do you have to ease city regulations in a way that both encourages businesses to develop and residents to grow, but still maintains safeguards and quality of life?
I don't believe that quality of life is something that the government can offer. What we can do is get out of the way. What we can do is cut regulations, and there's only so many ways to do that. As far as the safeguards go, that is a person's own sense of risk and their insurance company's business. It's not our business. And so an example I'll give for that is whether I've done some rain gutter jobs out on the Air Force Base or in other places where there's an OSHA rep, a guy who doesn't have my job that stands there telling me I need to use the ladder according to his specifics. It's like, look, man, I do this every single day. I know what I'm doing. I can't sue the city if I fall off a ladder because they didn't send somebody over to watch me and babysit me and make sure that I'm doing everything right. And I've had a few accidents, never that put me in the hospital. But the point is, it's not the government's job to do that. So cutting all of those regulations, like I said, that's an insurance company's issue or the company's issue itself, whatever contractor you might be referring to. That's up to them. The city is not there to babysit us. So, and the fact that we spend money having people that are in, those departments
1 minute.
is a waste of the taxpayers' dollars. Leave the people alone. They take care of themselves.
Okay, thank you, Josiah. Rob, same question. Beyond the recent updates to building codes, what specific steps or ideas do you have to ease city regulations in a way that encourages businesses to grow, residents to grow, and maintains essential safeguards and quality?
Well, we were speaking about this a little bit earlier today when inspections and that was in giving their budget presentation. Minot has the ability, the state sets the base code, and Minot has the ability to make it more restrictive or leave it where it's at. In some instances, I believe we've made it more restrictive. Some of those are safety issues and they can't be undone. But there's things I think that if we sat down as a community, again, not the city, not the city council, we get the builders, we get the developers, say, hey, okay, here's our ordinances, here's our policies, line through what makes it tough, and let's see if we can come together and make this work for everybody. Honestly, I think that's the only way we're going to do it, because once we have the reputation, and whether it's real or perceived, that Minot is hard to do business with, people don't necessarily look to our community to come here and start a new business. I mean, we walked a multi-billion-dollar company out of Minot within the last 2 months that wanted to come over here because we made it too restrictive for them. While they were waiting to get through all the red tape, their 2 employees quit, and so they're no longer looking at developing in Minot. That is a problem in our city, guys. Whether we
1
think it's
minute.
real or not, it's a problem.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Mark, same question.
So, as Rob was saying, I mean, what we understood from the discussion this morning was that, yes, the state sets the standard based on the International Building Code, and then they add some of their mix to it that pertains specifically to North Dakota, and then that comes to the municipality, and we have the ability to adapt it. And the way those changes are made, typically, we were told, was that the city building inspector works with Minot Association of Builders and contractors in town, tries to get their input. Sometimes that's kind of a struggle because they're busy people, but we try to do that, and then come up with changes and things that make sense. And so that process can perhaps be refined. Maybe there are things that have gotten into the code that should be taken out because they don't pertain anymore, because they're not
1
a
minute.
safety issue. But that's the way the process currently works.
Okay, Paul, finish us off on this question. What specific steps or ideas do you have to ease city regulations in a way that encourages both businesses to develop while still maintaining essential safeguards and quality?
Okay, so again, we've done that. We've done the ordinance review. Actually, just a couple years ago, we had a complete overhaul of our local ordinances. That was comprised of engineers, developers, contractors. We've met with the Minot Association of Builders. And we've asked them, hey, what is the holdup? What is the hurdle to development? We've never gotten those answers, right? We've worked closely with them. The only thing that's come out of those meetings is, would you guys entertain the idea of doing specials? Can you make it easier for us to develop? Can you bridge the gap in financing? Something that I think we need to look at. Those changes that come into our code that make it more restrictive, they come from our contractors. They come from our contractors for safety reasons, because our environment is different than any other place in the state, right? The state sets the bare minimum. Our contractors, it's not our staff that are just willy-nilly putting things in there to make it more restrictive. When it comes to specific ideas, again, I'll go back to the LDPC, the Land Development Partnership Committee, the program that I proposed at our last economic, and it'll come as a recommended action item out of that economic review committee. It's to accelerate land development by matchmaking landowners and interested builders, developers, and providing strategic incentives to reduce project barriers. And that comes along with policy changes. If there's a policy change that needs to happen to make something more developable, then we can do that. That's low-hanging fruit. If it comes with incentives as far as special assessments or things like that to bridge the gap, then we need to start to entertain that, because those are the real barriers.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Let's go to our next question. This one, I believe we start back with Rob. So, Rob, what specific things would you do as mayor to increase transparency in all areas of local government?
We will talk about it. If the mayor does something embarrassing, we will talk about it. If the city stubs its toe, we will talk about it. Now, having said that, there will be times, like when investigations are going on, that there's only certain information that's available to give out. But when it's done and over, we will give out all of the information, as we have in the last year. We have to tell the community why we're doing things. We have to tell the community how we're going to do things, so they understand. When 6 or 7 people sit up there and arbitrarily make a decision, and 30% or 40% of the community doesn't understand why that decision was made, that's where all the angst comes from in the community. And they're like, well, nobody's listening to us. That's not what we asked for. We have to get the people to re-engage with us. We have to be open and honest with them. And doing the things that they want us to do is how we start to walk that back.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Mark, same question for you. What specific things would you do as mayor to increase transparency in all areas of local government?
I think it goes back to the efforts to involve citizens in what's happening in local government. There's a number of folks in this room that come to every city council meeting. There's a lot of people in the community that have never been to one, and we have to change that. We have to make it desirable for people to come and be involved in city government, and that's where transparency comes from. That's where they know why we took an action that we took. That's where they know the background on why there is an issue. And so we have to continue to reach out. We have to continue to be transparent as we possibly can, limited by whatever investigations or legal advice or things like that prohibit that a little bit. But we are needing to be communicating to the people and bringing them
1
into
minute.
the process.
Okay, thank you. Paul, same question?
Again, I think we need to continue what we're doing and build upon it whenever we have the opportunity, whether it's the town halls, whether it's, outreach to citizens, whether it's the PIO office, whether it's city council meetings and getting those as advertised and out there as possible. It's not just the council member's ability to pull an item on an agenda. A citizen can request that an item be pulled if they want further discussion. So again, it gets back to, we can put all of the information out there. It's the you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. We can put all the information out there, but there is a responsibility on citizens to engage. There is a responsibility on the citizens that if you have questions, you got to reach out. You got to ask the questions, because staff are more than happy to give answers. I as a council member, again, if I don't have the answer, I can absolutely either get you the answer or point you in that direction. We have to be approachable, and again, continue to build upon the outreach that we have. That's how we become more transparent.
Okay, thank you, Paul. And Josiah, finish us off on this. What would you do, what specific things would you do as mayor to increase transparency in all areas of government?
Well, in many ways, I'd follow off the model of the private sector and how they do things. The private sector depends on our dollars to run, so what do? If they're doing a grand opening of something, for example, they do a press release, a newsletter, things like that can be, if you're not interested in city politics forever, then unsubscribe. We should have the option for everybody to subscribe and know what we're going on to, or what we have going on in City Hall. We can make open records requests more accessible. I know so many people that complain about open records and they get denied unlawfully on open records requests. You can sub it out in a sense. Some of those subscribers could be, the district chairman. It could be the churches. Any group of leadership that has, I should say, fellowship with a large amount of people. It's like, get them involved, encourage them to be involved by sending out pamphlets in the mail or just whatever it takes to do. At big organizations like Sons of Liberty or Young Republicans, get them involved. If we chase them a little bit, maybe they don't have to chase us so bad. We can actually pursue that relationship with the people. We can pursue that relationship with organizations and with local business. And that's a open window to transparency. Furthermore, cameras and stuff that the city has access to, the people should have access to.
1 minute.
Online.
Okay, thank you, Josiah. This is our last question before we have you guys do kind of your pitch as to why we should vote for you. So the last question tonight, and this will start with Mark Janser. If elected in August, will you run for re-election next spring?
I have publicly stated that I will.
Paul.
I'll say what I've said in the past. It'll depend on the options for the citizens. If I don't feel like we have appropriate leadership or leadership that can carry this community forward in the direction it should be going, then yes, I will step up to the plate.
Josiah.
Yes, although I don't desire a life in politics so much, I see it as a necessary responsibility for those that know what's right to do and know how to do it. They have to take action in doing so. And I believe that my constitutional mayor platform is right. I think that we need constitutional leadership. And as far as I can tell, I'm the only one that's going to install that constitutional leadership. And it's probably going to take more than 10 months that I'd have. So yes, I would intend to rerun until the job is done.
Okay, thank you, Josiah. Rob, same question. If elected in August, will you run for re-election next spring?
Yes, I plan to run next spring if I've been elected mayor. I'll rerun again because I'm here to do a job. And until the job's done, until the community feels that we've gotten to where they want us to be, I'll do the job. That's exactly what I promised I'd do.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. Now is the time for you to convince us. Why should any of us, why should all the people here, why should everyone online, why should any of us vote for you as mayor? And Paul, we get to start with you on this one. Please take 1 minute to tell us why we should vote for you as mayor.
I guess let's do this again. I didn't want to run for mayor under these circumstances, you guys. I didn't want to be here in this political climate. I didn't want to be here with this division taking place. but I feel like I owe it to I owe it to my kids. I owe it to the next generation of people in Minot that we don't have to lead with divisive policy. We don't have to lead with divisive conversations. What I've watched and witnessed while being on council, I'm not proud of. The disrespect to city staff, the tearing down of city staff in public meetings, the tens of thousands of dollars wasted in taxpayers' dollars. That's just reckless. You know, we're talking about flood control and building flood control for the city of Minot. The circulation of stuff like this at public forums, the vote us out crap that we see, there's no place for that in our community in the mayoral role. We need to build this community back together. Okay, we need to come back and put respect back into this position. I'm running because I care about Minot. I care about our staff, our neighbors, our future. I want to restore trust and integrity and honest leadership. Again, I didn't plan on being here. I'd rather be at home with my kids. I'd rather be at home with my wife. But I owe it to this community, and we've done too much hard work over the past 7 years that I've been on council and put Minot in a good direction to walk away from it now. So that's why I'm running for mayor.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Josiah, convince us. Why should any of us vote for you as mayor?
I don't think anybody would doubt my love for Minot or my respect and admiration for the Constitution and my adherence to it. I understand that with this role that my boss, my directive, is to the Constitution, which is we the people. We the people are the boss of the entire government, all the way up to the president. He works for us. I want to work for you. I want to work for a better Minot, because I want to build the Minot that not only I want to grow old in, but, you know, to someday have children and grandchildren that they can grow old in. And I don't like the government having too much, you know, hand in people's business. And we need to get back to what the founding fathers laid out for us, which was great. And if you guys would read the Constitution, it is so simplified and beautiful in how it elevates the people above the government. Because as I've said with my constitutional mayor signs you've seen around town, our elected leaders are meant to be shepherds, not rulers. And I seek to be that shepherd through hard times, and I want to shepherd us back to the grounding principles the founding fathers laid out. And in closing, I'll say that, you know, with everybody else that's here at this table, they're already in position. They had some good ideas. They had said some good things tonight. Why aren't they already doing it? They already have the power to do it. The mayor's less powerful. So I need your vote. I need your help to lead us back to the Constitution. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Josiah. Rob, same question. Why should we vote for you?
Well, I think last year, the people indicated they wanted change when myself and Scott and Mike were elected. And I think the people still want change. People in our community are struggling. Businesses are closing. People are paying more than ever for things that they've bought their whole lives. And my fellow opponents that sit up here act like none of it's their fault. They've been on the council for 8 and 18 years. They've made the decisions. They've made the policies. You know, Paul talks about divisiveness and those types of things. The truth is change scares the status quo. And what you're seeing is the status quo fighting back because they don't want that change that we as a community want. If you guys are happy with how things have been, where your taxes are and everything else, I'm probably not your candidate. But if you want to see change and you want to see Minot go in a different direction, a healthier direction in my mind with solid leadership, transparency, and honesty, then vote for Rob Fuller.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Mark Janser, convince us. Why should we vote for you as mayor?
As I said earlier, I'm proud of Minot, and I'm optimistic about our future. And I believe that I have a unique opportunity to be a servant leader, with stability, with collaboration, to move the city forward, to continue in the direction of positivity that we have started and need to return to. I've had opportunities, whether it's in the Pentagon, at the state legislature, at the state military commission, to provide solid, stable leadership. And I have a track record, which I think speaks for itself. So I would ask you to give me the opportunity to be your mayor, and please come out and vote on August 5th.
Okay, thank you, Mark. I want to take just a minute right now to thank all of our candidates, Rob, Mark, Paul, and Josiah. It takes a lot to run for an elected position, so thank you for doing that. Thank you to everyone who came out tonight. A lot of you gave a lot of great questions. We tried to capture as many of them as we could. And we want to wrap it up tonight by encouraging all Minot residents to vote on August 5th. Thank you.